Welcome to today's podcast with my guest Daniela and myself. Today we're going to be chatting about a few topics that don't get spoken about this often. It's going to be an interesting show. And my guest Daniela has a lot of experience in her field of wellness consulting, working with energy, working with people in a lot of different pursuits. And she's going to share her knowledge with us today, and it's going to help us a lot. So, welcome, Daniela.
Thank you, Abs, and it's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, a subject I am interested in, but I feel that there's not a lot of information out there about, is empathy. So, I'm interested to know what exactly is empathy, because a lot of people talk about it, but I don't think there's a clear overview of it.
That is such a great topic, in fact, because you're right. We hear the word empathy mentioned all the time, and we hear people saying, "Oh, he's an empath." But what exactly does it mean? And you're right. What are the characteristics? So, empathy is the ability to feel another person's emotions. And there are a few different types of empaths, in fact. So it's not just connected to the emotions of another person, but also the environment. So we're talking about people who are highly sensitive. These are people who are sensitive to another person's emotions, changes in the environment, noise, sound, pollution, even touch, even physical sensitivities. So empaths are, in fact, highly creative people. And society, and if you're wondering if you are an empath, if you're listening to us now and you're wondering, well, am I an empath? What does that mean? So you may have been called very picky, very sensitive, but you're not picky. You're just very sensitive to the environment. And that's why you choose where to go, which people to socialize with, because an empath feels very drained very often because their sensory system is very open, very heightened. So their senses are open to absorb from other people's emotions, from the environment, and also on the top of that, they have to deal with their own emotions. So this is in a nutshell. And I'd like to mention some of the challenges empaths usually face. And as I mentioned already, that would be, let's say you walk into a room and you're feeling great and you sit for 5 minutes and all of a sudden you start to feel drained or depressed or sad. And what I usually advise some of the people I work with, because that was my own experience until I realized that this is what was going on. I was really tuning into other people's emotions without consciously knowing that, was exactly that's what's happening. You're feeling somebody else's emotions. And one of the biggest challenges is how to distinguish the emotions of the other person and your own. And this is why empaths have trouble setting boundaries, because it's hard to tell when your emotions end and when my emotions start. It's how to explain it. It's almost like you're like this vast ocean, so you're connecting to inner and outer space at the same time, and you learn how to how to um, how to shift this energy and how to protect your field in a way, that is not draining, that is not harming you.
You've mentioned a lot of good points there and describing an empath. Could someone be partially empathetic? And what is the difference between being empathetic and being sympathetic?
That's a good point. So it's interesting. I personally, from my own experience, as I mentioned, I was a highly sensitive child, and I'm still a sensitive person. And as a child, I really avoided big crowds, certain people, certain children. I felt more comfortable being at home, reading a book and drawing, and later on, I only realized that this was me unconsciously or subconsciously trying to protect myself. So if you're an empath, I don't believe that you can be a partial empath. But what will happen is that with time, when you learn that actually this is what's going on with you, and when you learn that certain behaviors and repetitive patterns of behaviors are actually more harming you than benefiting you, then you learn how to put the stop and how to place a boundary, let's say. So for example, because empaths are natural givers. So what's happening? Let's just talk examples here, right? So if an empath witnesses someone suffering, someone in pain, the empath will not just say, "Oh, I'm sorry that you're in pain," but the empath will go and say, "How can I make it better? I'm actually feeling, I can see what you've just gone through. You've hurt yourself, or you've gone through a breakup, or you've gone through a loss. I'm here with you and I'm acknowledging what you're feeling." And to me personally, empathy always goes with compassion, not so much with sympathy, but I'll go back to that subject as well. But empathy usually goes with compassion because an empath naturally wants to make things better. So they'll offer some kind of an aid, some kind of a help to the person because they're feeling that person's emotions so intensely in their being that they know what it feels like to be suffering or to be in that position naturally. So I really don't think that they can be partially empaths. But the other point is that they are a magnet of people who are takers, people who are self-absorbed and are always just there for themselves. So an empath is a natural giver and attracts a natural taker. What happens is that this can be quite a harmful unit for them, quite a harmful relationship, and they get emotionally, mentally, and physically depleted. And I've seen many empaths who are in relationships, and I've been myself in that kind of relationship, and that literally it creates such a negative impact on the body. You become so drained. You literally depleted of your life force energy. And with time, I also teach empaths how to respect their boundaries, how to place those boundaries if there is no reciprocation of their efforts. But it does take a while for us as empaths. And still, it will always be a process because it's naturally ingrained in an empath to give, to offer help, to be there. And another thing that I wanted to mention is, and this is something that I've learned to do, is how to channel those sensitivities into a gift, which can actually be of contribution to the people around us and to humanity. So if an empath is very sensitive and intuitive, usually empaths are very intuitive, they can turn that sensitivity into becoming a caregiver, right? You can actually use your gifts into turning it into a greater purpose in life and meaning. Yeah, so a lot of empaths are caregivers. A lot of empaths are teachers. You'll find empaths more in the service, in providing services to other people. And to answer, I'm sorry, I'm flowing. I'm going from one thing to another because it's just such a vast subject.
Keep talking, yeah.
So to answer the question about sympathy and empathy, and I would like to give an example. So imagine that somebody is in pain. Let's say they hurt their foot. Let's go with something which is really physical and most people can relate to. Somebody who is sympathetic would say, "Oh, poor you. I'm sorry that you hurt yourself." An empath will go and say, "Wow, I can see that it's right at the point of the foot where, you use really for walking. And I know that you probably did not expect that to happen. And you're headed to that event. And that was the last thing that you wanted to happen. I'm really sorry. How can I help you?" You see the difference?
Yeah, it's almost like the empath becomes the person.
Correct.
Mm,
Exactly. And this is why it's so hard for an empath to set a boundary, because they're really feeling the other person's emotion and they have this deep sense of compassion,
mm,
you know, and isn't it true that when we feel understood, that is already most of the healing done? So that's why empaths make great caregivers, great coaches, great teachers. Yes.
I was going to say, when you was describing an empath,
Mm.
I had just had an image of a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I had an image of either a mother with her child or a nurse. So my question is, do you think women in general are more empathetic? And what is the environment, would you say, that nurtures an empath? For example, are they receiving a lot of love growing up, or are they highly in tune to their environment? Is there a sort of some type of building blocks that create this empath, or are we just born with it naturally, would you say?
Very good question.
Mm,
So, in my experience, I work with both men and women, and I have seen empaths in both, you know, but the difference is that men hide it. Yeah, men don't feel comfortable talking about it. Yes,
as with a lot of subjects, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Mm,
So I've seen equally empathetic men and women, but often they put that strong shell and they don't want to show it. Yet they do exactly that with the people they trust and they love. They open up their heart and they say, how can I be there for you? I know what you're feeling.
mm,
But in many ways, a lot of men think that this is perceived as a weakness. Hence, they hide it.
mm,
But yes, women are naturally more intuitive. So, but not every intuitive person is an empath. Yes, women, I feel that women have been just given more the opportunity to express this empathetic side of them, being perceived as the nourisher, the caregiver. You know, from centuries, the woman has been the caregiver of the family, while the men went and fought and gathered food, and they went to war, and the woman has always been the caregiver. So from centuries ago, the role of a nurturer has been encouraged more in women. Yes.
mm.
And what was the other question? Yeah, the other question was about, is one born being empathetic, or is it something genetic? So it could be both. It could be both. And, we can touch upon the spiritual part of it as well. But people who are empaths, they usually have a very high vibration. So that's why they are also highly sensitive people. They can connect to multiple, let's say, timelines at the same time. And that's what makes them overloaded. That's why an ideal environment for an empath would be one which supports a detox. Let's call it a detox. I know it's an overused word, but detox, what I mean by that is on physical, emotional, mental levels, even spiritual. So what would that look like? One of the worst things an empath can do is spend hours on social media. That's the first thing I'm going to say, So it has to be very regulated. The reason for that is because, remember, empaths are like sponges. We absorb from our environment, from the people, information. And what happens when there is a buildup of all that information from outside, I call it horizontal noise. That's when the empath's nervous system is overloaded. And, if you're aware that this is what is causing you, you would pause, go into silence, go into solitude, even if it's for an hour. So that would be an ideal environment for an empath, where they go to different tools. For example, journaling, just to detox the mind, meditation, even any kind of vocal exercises, just to clear the energy field, and time alone, even if it's for an hour. An empath needs that time in order to recharge their batteries. And you asked me another question. Oh, if it's genetic. Yeah, so there is, a prenatal trauma can also cause high sensitivity in a person. And of course, the way a person has been brought up, that can cause hypersensitivity and being hypervigilant. So if somebody, but that is slightly different. If somebody grew up in a family where there was a lot of violence, or if they had a parent who was unpredictable, they learn to read people so well. And that is a self-protection mechanism that gets activated in the person. So that is slightly different from being an empath. But to answer the question about the empath, I do believe that some people are just more sensitive in general than other people. Or later in life, if they choose to develop more that part of themselves, which is intuition, then they can become more in tune with their environment as well. Yes.
I can imagine it being quite difficult to move from this behavior of feeling everything to being able to manage it, So when you're describing an empath, I feel that I would be on a scale, but not so much that it completely takes over my life. Like, I feel the pain and suffering of others, of animals. I do my best to help, but the way you broke it down is I can see a clear difference of the depth that an empath goes to looking at the situation from like a 360-degree angle, almost becoming the person, looking for detailed solutions, and being there not only vocally but emotionally on a journey to help that person. So you mentioned some strategies like journaling.
Yes.
And you have a program for this, right? Where you can help empaths manage
Absolutely
their behavior. Is there anything else you would recommend, or any other strategies for people who are an empath, apart from obviously coming to someone like yourself and getting some guidance? Is there anything else you would recommend?
Yes. So one of the things that has actually helped me greatly is feeling grounded, to practice grounding every day. And there are many ways we can do that, but one of the simplest ways is just to be in nature. And even if you just go and touch a tree, because if you think about the tree, the roots of the trees run deep, right? So anything that represents grounding energy for anybody, you can even do a visualization where you're in nature, or you can visualize yourself as a tree with deep roots. And that's something that helped me in the past, especially when I was going through my spiritual transformation. Very often I was feeling ungrounded. I was not even able to go into a shopping mall because I would feel the energies of other people. I would hear the thoughts, and it was very ungrounding experience until I realized that, well, actually, by grounding myself, being more present with myself, is where my attention should be going into. Because as I mentioned, the empath's energy is like an ocean. The ocean, how everything is underneath the water, above the water, the empath can feel everything. So the more you center your energy, the more you work on your core and on this grounded feeling, the less you will be affected by what's going on around you, above and below. So this is the best advice I could offer to an empath. And also, as I mentioned, solitude, time alone, and breath work. Breath work is like a miracle work, literally, because you recenter your energy, you bring your focus back to yourself. And a modality that has helped me in the past greatly was actually jiu-jitsu. which is a Japanese art of healing. So that is a very physical, it's just to give an idea, it's like acupuncture, but you don't use needles and anybody can do it. And you just need your fingers, your hands. So you just apply on certain points where you rebalance your centers. Yes.
So we mentioned some of the challenges of an empath.
Yes.
But when you're describing an empath, I feel there are advantages, especially if you're trying to help someone.
Absolutely.
So the next question is, what are the advantages of being an empath, and what are the applications, for example, when you're helping people, when you're guiding, coaching people? And then another one that's just come to mind is, can it be difficult to work with an empath if they are holding it in? So, you mentioned about the men, some men find it difficult, and you might be going on this journey with them, but does it get to a point where it's difficult to let go? So are there any challenges as well that you faced working with empaths in particular, in terms of trying to help, depending on where they are on this sort of scale?
Right. So to answer the first question, usually what I do is when I notice that a person who comes for guidance is an empath, we go through all their challenges, and then we look at how these challenges are actually hidden blessings, hidden gifts. For example, a person who is highly sensitive to, let's say, smell. They can be incredible at creating a perfume or essential oil blends. Yeah. So, and that blend is going to contribute to the well-being of so many people, right? A person who is sensitive to the emotions of another person can make an incredible coach, incredible healer. Yes, because they understand the other person and they hold space with so much compassion and zero judgment. A person who is sensitive to, let's say, physical touch. For example, I always cut the labels of my clothes because I can feel it. Yes, but that also makes me very good at picking the right textile. What feels good to the skin. So someone can be incredible at doing that, right? And so this is, I guess, I wouldn't call it my gift, but I would say this is a real focal point in my work when somebody who is an empath comes with those perceived as challenges, how to turn them around, so they can contribute to humanity and to other people. I have few examples of my clients who have come with those sensitivities, and now they set up their businesses. They've turned those sensitivities into blessings, and they're contributing to so many people's lives. And I had a client who was very sensitive to taste, and now she has one of the most amazing bakers, for example.
Wow.
Yes.
So you could be a business coach as well then, because you're
yes.
teaching people how to channel their strengths.
Correct.
Imagine someone has a frustration, or a behavior that's causing them a burden, and you flip it into a positive. That's life-changing.
It's true.
And
yes.
then on top of that, you turn it into their career.
Correct.
So it's the first time I've heard someone speak like this about this particular subject. So well done on everything that you're doing. And I hope the people listening can reach out to you with this area, because not only are you an empath, but you also understand what to do with empaths.
Thank you, as being one.
And that requires experience.
Yes.
And it requires other skills as well.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
For men, you mentioned something about men. Just wanted to go back into that. So, in my experience, I've never worked with. I've never had a case where the person doesn't feel safe enough to let go. in our sessions, in my work. And I guess to all the empaths, of course, this is one of the biggest gifts to be able to offer that space which is safe and nourishing for another human being, so they can be themselves, so they can be who they are, and to channel their authenticity.
I can vouch for that as well. I've known Daniela for quite some time now. I've done some sessions with her as well. And Daniela works with me in some areas. And what I would say about Daniela is that her energy, her aura is very unjudging or not judging of people. If you listen to her voice as well, it's very soothing. So, for example, I've done sessions with Daniela where I've been able to get into places that I wouldn't normally be able to get into just because of your voice, for example. On top of that, I would say that Daniela is very good at neutralizing the environment, so whether you're in a room for the first time or, in a public space with lots of people, because Daniela, I've experienced her doing meditation work, breath work as well. And the whole kind of aura of the room allows you to let go. So if you are a man, a woman out there, then I highly recommend you get in touch with Daniela, because just like she said, you're going to feel comfortable, and there's not many spaces like that around. And we as men in particular, we need to open up, because when we do that, it's such a relief,
Yes.
And Danielle is the person to do that with, because like I said, she creates that space. So Danielle is a light worker, so shining light, using her light to help others. And actually that flows well into what we're going to speak
exactly.
about. I just connecting the dots now.
Yes, absolutely. And also what I wanted to mention is that Abs mentioned that we've worked together on few levels. And as an empath, Abs also knows, because I work with Abs, he's helping me as well in some areas. And he knows that an empath, because we get affected by the environment on day-to-day basis, even on minute to minute. So it's not possible not to be allowing with an empath. You can't be limited in your way, in your approach to an empath. And so I'm grateful to you for allowing me to just flow through my journey on the things that we're working with you, on my physical fitness. And so and to understand an empath, you definitely need to be one or connected in some way to that energy as well. So I'm equally grateful. And yes, light is indeed one of the most important elements, not just to empaths, but to every human being. And we're so fortunate to be living in a country which actually has how many days a year sunlight? 365 or maybe 360. So from your perspective, Abs, because you have so much deep knowledge when it comes to the human body, to the environment, to the elements. Is really sunlight bad for us, or is it good for us from your perspective and your experience?
That's a great introduction. I wish I could do introductions like that. So, I'll touch on some points now. We'll be looking at some references, because there might be some long words coming up and stuff.
Sure.
But I'll try to keep the balance as well. So what I would say is that if we look at it from this perspective, whatever you believe, religion, God, nature, what we do know and intuitively feel is that the sun is there for a reason, right? And actually, we cannot survive without the sun and light that it gives. So, just to touch on the point of the sun and whether or not it is harmful for us, the answer is no, the sun is not harmful for us. However, just like everything in life, how much we get of it, how we interact with it makes a difference, you know.
It's true.
So if we were to drink too much water, then it would cause us a problem. So this also applies to the sun. I would say that people are a little bit confused because different people have a variety of reactions to the sun, right? And what I would say is when you look at it biologically and when you look at studies, we haven't got to be scared of the sun. So I'm going to give an example. The biggest study that gets done every year is in the United States with over 300 million people. And they look at cancer rates and melanoma rates. Melanoma is specifically skin cancer. And actually, the surprising thing is people that suffer with skin cancer or different types of cancers, the rates are higher in the areas with lower sun exposure. So in order to be healthy, we need the sun. And I might speak a little bit later about the anti-tumor effects of vitamin D, for example. So if you want to be healthy, and as the studies show, the areas with the highest UV exposure, the areas where people spend the most time outdoors are the healthiest. And even when we look at the blue zones, we can see that the top blue zones, people spend a lot of time outdoors and interacting with the sun. So what I would say is you need to look as an individual. For example, how much melanin you have in your skin, which is the dark pigment. What is your health like? Because the healthier you are, the longer you can spend in the sun. And the more melanin you have, the longer you could spend in the sun. And the more you train yourself, because we're working with receptors, and just like all receptors in the body, if we train them to exposure, their tolerance level increases.
So how do we train ourselves? Do we increase the time each day? What would that look in practical terms?
Yeah, so I would say if you are someone that doesn't go out in the sun much, don't go out there and do like an hour. Build it up, you know, so start with 10 minutes. And what we have to understand is we may be used to getting sun on our face, you know, walking around, but a lot of people don't get it on their body. And we have receptors all over our body. And I'm going to speak about a molecule in a bit and what it does. So getting sun all over the body is important as well, because we convert using cholesterol into vitamin D, and we have this dehydrocholesterol all over our skin.
Right.
So start with increasing different parts of your body. So the exposure surface area. So you might start with your face and neck, and then you move to your shoulders and your arms. And then if you can, get your full body. On top of that, your diet. So a lot of studies been done, people that have a lot of toxins in their body, they're likely to burn more
Interesting.
because there's something called reactive oxygen species, and we may have heard of things called like free radical damage,
Yes.
where our DNA gets damaged, the cells get hurt, and our capacity to protect that depends on our health. So it might be how much antioxidants we have in our body, how much toxins we have in our body that stimulate this oxidative stress, how much fat we have. So if we have more fat, then one thing is the UV can't penetrate our skin as deeply. Our vitamin D gets bound up in our fat cells, so it's not bioavailable, it's not circulating. And also we have high amount of toxins in the fat cells, so people that are bigger have a more higher risk of burning as well.
That's interesting
Yeah.
because I always wondered why some people burn so badly and others just tan. So that makes sense now. Yeah.
And the other thing is sunglasses. So we have a mechanism, which I'm going to speak about, deep in our brain, which the light comes through and connects with through our eyes. And that basically tells your cells what to do. So either to go into this mode to protect yourself from the sun, to activate the melanin, for example, or you're not in an environment where there is high UV. So if your eyes are not exposed, your skin will burn faster.
Interesting.
So I'll be speaking about that as well. But just going back now to melanin. So
Yes.
people have an assumption that people with darker skin have more melanin. To some extent, this can be true. However, we all have a lot of melanin, but it's under the layers of our skin. So, for example, you will have a high amount of melanin, but it's facing the other way compared to me, for example. So, just like me, you need to have sun exposure to activate it, and it increases, hence why people get a tan. But also, there are other ways that you can activate it as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it related to other hormones? I mean, for example, a lot of pregnant women have increased melanin production because, you get different pigmentation on the body during pregnancy. Is there a connection to that?
You know what? That's something that I haven't personally looked into.
Okay.
But now you told me, I'm going to come back to you.
Yes.
And I can see a link, like there's a connection there for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Hormonally, because now when I start speaking again, I will speak a little bit about how the sun or sunlight, or as various spectrums of colors of light govern our hormonal profile. So a lot of people don't know this.
Yes.
So there will be a link.
Must be, right? It's probably something with the pineal gland.
Yeah, well, that will definitely
Yes.
will play a role as well.
Very interesting.
So I was just checking the time.
Yes, yes.
So did you tell that guy, by the way? We started at about quarter past.
Quarter
right?
past, yeah.
So I'll just run through this. So we have a protein. It's called neuropsin. It's in our skin, our eyes, and all over our body, and it's connected to a suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is in the brain. And basically, this governs our circadian rhythm. So if you're not getting yourself the right light exposure, then you will have problems sleeping.
Right.
So this neuropsin is also in our liver, it's in our hair, it's in our kidneys, our immune cells, it's in our adrenal glands. So light stimulates the cells in these areas, and it helps us either with reducing inflammation, with cellular repair, healing. So this hormone, this neuropsin regulates a hormone, melatonin, which we know is the master hormone for sleep. But also it plays a role in fertility as well. So it's quite a broad role, and people just see it in a way where light cannot affect us like this, but it helps us a lot. So when we look at light as a whole, we describe the interaction with light and our body as photobiomodulation. That's the kind of technical term, and it's exactly what it says. So photo, light, bio, it's regulating our biology, the modulation of it. And how it works is different wavelengths of light stimulate different pathways in the body.
Interesting.
So we've heard of red light, that's the famous
Yes.
one, or near infrared light.
Yes.
The role of that is, like they said, the cellular function, the healing, the repair. And we've recently found out that this near infrared helps to regulate our hormonal panels. So it's a driver of steroid hormones.
Interesting.
So women that are struggling with their menstruation, their period, one of the best things that you can do is spend more time in the sun. And a lot of the reason why women have issues with progesterone and then some of the precursors like pregnenolone is because they're not getting enough light, especially red light, across the whole body.
Yes, I was going to ask, is there a particular part of the body that needs to be exposed to the sun for women
Yes.
in order to stimulate the production of, what is the hormone you said? It's not progesterone, the one that is the precursor. Pregnenolone.
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
yeah.
Or is it anywhere on the body?
Yeah, so all over the body is good,
Right.
but as you would say as a woman, where do you feel the need to have the light touch? Probably around the ovaries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking while you're talking. I was thinking, well, I would like to probably have this area around the stomach area, the liver area, that would be, that feels right for me as a woman. Yes. It's interesting how
Yeah.
the body has so much intelligence.
Yes.
It just needs a bit of confirmation
Yes.
and guidance.
So Danielle is really in tune with her body. So some of the conclusions that she comes to are based on herself being in tune to her biology. And that's what we want to encourage people to do.
Exactly.
Even before we came, she said she was thinking about purple. Purple light is around us, right? And when I tell you what purple light or ultraviolet light does, maybe your body was asking for it.
Possibly.
So I'm going to go through now what different colors of light. So we have the visible light spectrum. At school we taught it's the rainbow. What do the different colors of light do? So orange and yellow is great for our skin and skin conditions. So each light has a wavelength, which is measured in nanometers. Maybe we could share this information as well.
Yes, that
So
sounds amazing. And while
yeah.
you're talking about light, I'm also thinking from spiritual point of view of the different chakras and the
Yes, yes,
colors.
yes.
So there definitely is a connection.
Yes.
Yes.
So the orange and yellow is the skin. People might have eczema, psoriasis, skin issues. Really good for them to get some of this colored light, which obviously the sun has all, right?
Exactly.
But different times of the day emphasize different colors of light. It's good for your collagen, lymphatic flow, and it's good for revitalizing your skin. Then we have the green. Green is really good for pain if you have migraines.
See, there you go. Green is the healing color.
It boosts our natural endorphins as well, and it lowers inflammation, and it gives us support. So if you have fear, also with green light, it helps with wound healing specifically.
Makes sense.
You know, the famous light that we know is blue light.
Yes, it's used in a lot of hospitals, in fact, in
Yes.
Germany, in Europe.
Yeah, so
Yes, it is.
blue light. So we blue light gets a bad rap, right? Because the reason being is we want you to be out of the blue light when the sun goes down, but not when the sun is out.
True.
It's good for us, right? So the reason being is it stimulates dopamine. So if you're under a lot of artificial light at night, it'll be hard for you to sleep.
Of course.
Right? So that's why we say no blue light at night. But during the day, it's really good.
That's screen time as well, because all the screens have blue light, right?
Yes, exactly. So the blue light is antimicrobial. It helps with your microbiome of your skin as well. So the good bacteria on your skin. Like I said, it increases dopamine. So if you're in the sun, you're going to feel happy and joyful.
Yes.
And as I was saying before, it sets the rhythm, circadian rhythm. So if you're in the light, if you get good light exposure during the day, you'll notice that you'll sleep more deeply because your body's had enough and it's ready to shut down. And then going back to the hormones, the blue light is the specific one that stimulates the pregnenolone. So for the androgenic hormones, your testosterone, progesterone, all that is really good. So get the blue light for that, which is when the sun is out, you know. So today, Daniela mentioned purple light or ultraviolet.
Yes.
The UVB we actually make vitamin D from, and it's a beautiful cascade of reactions that go through our body involving the skin, our liver, our kidneys, and then we get the active form. So I just want people to know that you get the best form of vitamin D from the sun. If you're going to supplement with it, you don't get the interaction with metabolites. And normally supplements are made out of things like sheep's wool. So, and only supplement with vitamin D3. Don't supplement with vitamin D2 because it's toxic to the body. Vitamin D2 goes straight to your liver because it bypasses all the stages. D3 will have the interaction, but D from the sun, you cannot get it in a supplement form because D from the sun interacts with metabolites in your body. So your body metabolizes it a lot more better. You can eat cheese, liver, eggs for vitamin D as well.
So how long should a person, let's say, spend in the sun, if, let's say, a person who is healthy on daily basis in order to meet their requirements for good immunity, hormone production?
That's a great question. Maybe what we can do is put some stats. I don't know off the top of my head. This amount of exposure equals this much IU
Yes.
of vitamin
That
D.
would be good.
And
Yes.
when you go in the sun, it's like
Yes.
thousands. So if you
Yes.
compare it to a supplement, it cannot be touched. The sun.
Yes.
So what I would say is look at your skin type, look at
Yes.
your health, look at how much melanin you have, look at your previous exposure. And if you are someone with darker skin, you might need 5 to 10 times more exposure than someone with lighter skin
Of
because the
course.
melanin
Yes.
is blocking the UVB.
Yes.
So if you're darker, you need to spend more time. And normally
Mm.
the opposite happens because people that are dark, like, I don't want to get darker.
Mm.
But that's what's having a negative impact on your health
Yes.
because the cultural programming of you being afraid to be dark is actually negatively impacting your health. So if
Yeah.
you're darker, you need to spend longer in the sun. So what I would say,
Wow.
you can wear sunscreen as well, by the way. So everyone has a choice, but I am not recommending chemical sunscreens.
No.
I'm recommending natural mineral sunscreens. So if you feel you need it, if you're a bit sensitive, put it on. But the thing is with a natural mineral sunscreen, it's not going to block the UVB,
That's
but it will
very
still
good.
give you some protection factor. So that's the beauty of it.
That's
Maybe we
great
can give some
information.
examples of how to
Yes.
make your own, for example.
Coconut oil, would that I see
Yeah,
some of them,
yeah.
the natural ones, they're based in coconut oil.
I think they use that as a base or
Yeah,
tallow.
maybe.
And then you need some other type of organic compound to be mixed in to
Right.
provide like a blocking effect.
Yes.
So yeah.
Abs, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
because you're a very strong athlete and very strong runner,
Mm,
and you run in the sun.
mm.
And so, how long did it take you to build that endurance? Especially when it's really hot, because you continue doing the sprints in the sun.
Yeah, it took me a while, particularly having dark skin. You absorb the heat and the sun so much
Yes.
more. Like as soon as I get out, I'm burnt, like my body feels hot. So I've been doing it over a year now. So I've built the tolerance up. So I would recommend
Wow.
people to, go out there, maybe spend 15 minutes. And now I can spend about 2 hours outside. Yesterday it
Yes.
was almost 40 and I spent that time outside. So I would say just like anything, like you train a muscle,
Yes.
you train your melanin, you train your body's fitness and tolerance to be able to cope with this heat,
Yes.
but you have to be hydrated. Like the amount of water that I go through can be like 2 to 3 liters just in a training session, and plenty of electrolytes as well. And you have to replenish a lot after, a lot of carbohydrates after. Simple
Or the
carbohydrates.
glucose
Yes.
for the muscles.
Yeah,
and
so I'm
yes.
having a lot of fruits after as well.
Mm.
So I would say taking all these factors into consideration and do it slowly. Do it slowly, but it's really important to focus on your health at the same time because that will allow you to have a higher tolerance.
And I think that is one of the most powerful points in your approach, because with abs, you never feel forced, yet you still get results. But he goes with what is required in the moment from you. He observes, he looks at the whole picture. He's not going to be putting you on an intense program which is going to make you collapse and probably go back instead of move forward. So, and I love what you said, you're building it up slowly. Yes. So really that's why I like your approach. And this is the reason I've chosen to work out with you and to work on my physical strength with you, because you have a holistic approach to fitness. And what a great information, because you always go in so much depth. And I mean, I didn't know about the orange and the yellow and the green lights.
And the ultraviolet. So
Yes.
I'm just going to finish on this
Yes.
actually, which I'm just, whenever I think of this now, I'm going to be thinking of you. Purple, I'm going to
Yes.
associate to Daniela. So the purple light is the ultraviolet. That's what stimulates vitamin D or creates vitamin D. So if someone is feeling purple light, maybe they want their vitamin D levels to increase or their body's asking for it. This light helps to regulate glucose in the body, blood sugar, the purple light. So it helps with conditions like insulin resistance or any type of blood sugar issue. It's great for your metabolism. Does your body want to burn fat? Are you looking to feel, are you in a happy mood? If you're in a happy mood, you will search for this purple. If you're excited, because serotonin is the hormone connected to purple light, which is our happy hormone.
Here we go.
There you go. It helps to reduce blood pressure as well. And it frees up electrons in our body. So if your body is looking for stability, then it will seek purple light.
So where do we find it?
In the sun.
At what time? Is there a particular timing?
Yeah. So the highest will be at the highest peak of the day when the sun is at its highest.
Like lunchtime.
Yes, but a lot of people cannot tolerate the sun at that time.
Of course.
So even if you go either side, so a little bit earlier or a little bit later, it will always be there.
Okay.
Yes, it will always be there.
So it's definitely not at around sunrise and sunset time. It's more closer to the peak time.
Yes, because the infrared is at when the sun is rising, the red light, and you will feel the healing you'll feel from the infrared is different to when the sun is at its peak. You won't get that same vibration and
of course
feeling.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then the UVB is helps. The UVB is anti-cancer or helps to reduce cancer. The UV, should I say, because there's UVA as well. Don't be scared of UVA. Excuse me. Don't be scared of UVA. So, and then the other one, what else I want to say? I think I've talked about everything. Oh yeah. So with the UV light, it stimulates our immune cells. So it's good for people with immune conditions as well. Actually, back in the day, hospital beds, they would push people outside into the sun to heal, So don't be afraid of the sun, but like everything in life, interact with the sun in moderation and relative to your health and your tolerance.
And build it gradually.
Yes.
Like everything else.
Yes.
Yes. Great information. Wow, so many things that I did not know and just discovered. So thank you for everything that you offered today. And I'm sure that there will be a lot of people now saying, oh, thank God, I can actually go in the sun and enjoy it without having to fear that something will happen to me, especially when we're given in this country, this natural gift, this element that is, it actually feeds our life force energy. How can we live without the sun? It's not possible.
I agree.
Yes,
Thank you very much, Daniela.
Thank you, Abs.